Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. We've got some malicious compliance stories, so let's jump right into our first story of the day by NoFortunateOne. Boss wants me to write an email. Hi all, a little bit of background here. I am currently an executive for a large bank. My job is to manage the accounts for businesses that have an existing relationship with the bank. Specifically, I manage the credit card processing side, aka merchant services. About 6 years ago, there was a huge uproar within the organization about a new position opening up, the executive position mentioned previously. It would be a new team with amazing pay, flexible hours, and above all, actual authority to make business decisions. It was a big deal. So naturally, I applied. It would be a huge step up from my then job of managing escalations for the senior directors. Fast forward a bit and I'm hired. I joined the team in October, a few months after the team was started. So 10 or so people had already started working with their assigned customers. I strangely was not given any accounts to manage. Instead, they decided to give me training modules to complete to get me up to speed. I'm cool with that. I figured it was a difficult job, so it made sense at the time. Well, I complete the silly modules in a few days and decide to walk to the manager to ask what he would like me to do. This is when I discovered this department was a cluster truck. The manager informs me that those modules were all of the work that they could assign to me. They had already assigned all of the portfolios of customers for the year, and I would not be getting to manage customers until the new portfolios were approved. Having come from a world where everything is literally a dumpster fire emergency, I am confused. I assumed that I would be fired or something. Nope. My manager told me that I would be allowed to assist the other executives with their customers should the need arise. Not a single soul asked me for assistance. Understandable, since they were all trying to make the appearance that they were capable. So, every day I would sit in my cubicle with my feet on my desk watching movies, reading books, and browsing Reddit. It was an unbelievably great way to support my family. Literally a dream job. I feel like I need to add that I did not receive portfolios to manage until March. Freaking March! 6 months of me entertaining myself on the company dime. I'm not going to lie, it was wonderful. Anyway, I finally get to do my job, which I am extremely excited about. My first order of business was to reach out to my customers and the team of merchant services reps that previously assisted the customers to basically let them know that there was a new sheriff in town. Not a single rep took me seriously. They knew nothing about my position or the responsibilities of my job. They assumed that I was just a support member that they could dump their problems on. It was a mess, and our management team did nothing to smooth over our role to the reps or their higher-ups. A day or two into the job, I am added to an enormous email chain with a customer, their accountant, several directors, and a VP of a partner banking channel. The long and short of it is that the customer was upset about the rates that we were charging them. I reviewed the pricing and offered a very appropriate alternative to their current pricing schedule. It was a small change to be sure, but it would have saved them in the neighborhood of $20,000 per year. My first mistake was assuming that the directors and VP on the chain understood that it was my call to make. My manager immediately gets a call from that VP ranting about my email. My manager comes to my desk, breathing heavy, asking me about the email. I explained what I was doing. I was 100% in the right and my manager agreed. It was a good business decision, but the VP felt that they would get to set the pricing like it had always been done in the past. He wanted to gut our rates so that we made little to nothing on the customer. Well, I didn't work for his channel and I refused to gut it. He wanted to gut the pricing on our side because that's not where he made his money. He made money on the banking side. He was forcibly trying to ruin my take to protect his own. My manager is in hot water, so he insists that he tell me what to write for the remainder of the chain. I do not like to be babysat. I've never really experienced working for this guy before, so I felt it was a good time to test the waters. While the Peter measuring contest is going on between the manager/VP, the customer fires back in an email that she completely agrees to the new terms. However, she also requires that we refund her the difference of fees for the last 3 years. Due to my manager's order, I let him dictate what I am going to write. This is where the malicious compliance comes in. He tells me to write that we can change her rates to the new pricing or we can refund her the difference of fees. She cannot have both. For those of you in the know, this is an extremely bad move. For those of you that don't know, it is not a good business practice to give your customer an ultimatum if you want to keep them. In this situation, the customer holds all of the cards. I still have the email to show off in the office. I'm going to cut out the personal details. Here is the email. I made sure to add the first bit myself. My manager's part starts at, "You are entitled." I write exactly what he says. Keep in mind, everyone and their mother is copied on this email. Thank you for your email, customer name. I have reviewed your request to my leadership, manager name. We appreciate the opportunity that you have given us to retain your business. You are entitled to the rate change or the refund. At this time, we are not prepared to grant you both of these things. We can get you the numbers on the savings if that would help. We feel that your request is unfair to our business. It is with a heavy heart we decline. VP name, manager name said he got your voicemail. He said he'll call you back after we're done with this deal. Sent. I have never in my life sent such a disrespectful email like that. I was awestruck that someone like this was able to crawl his way up to such a position in the company. My first real experience with this guy was a living crap show. It sickens me to know that at the bottom of this email was my name. To someone on the outside, it would look like I was the dumbest person in the world. Now, for the fallout. I still don't know the exact details of what happened after the email was sent that day. I was not added back to the email chain. The very next day, I was invited to a conference room with 6 to 7 people. The only people I knew there at that time were my manager and the manager of our sister team. I was greeted by one of the people. She was smiling and very friendly. She asked me if I knew who she was. I said no. She sat on the table and said that she was the senior VP of sales for my bank. At the time we rolled up to her, she was the head honcho, my boss's boss's boss. She had flown from our headquarters literally across the country just for this meeting. She seemed like a very nice person. She was not, but it was unnerving how all she would do is ask questions. She held up her hand and shushed me anytime I tried to say anything outside of answering her questions. I was there for a while and I was nervous, so I don't remember all of the questions. The big ones were, "How do you like your job?" which scared me. And, "Why do you feel it was appropriate to email a customer a rude email?" This one turned the tables in the room. I told her that the email was completely inappropriate. "Then why did you send it?" I told her I was asked to send the email by my manager and then was allowed to explain my side of things. It was dead silent in that room even after I finished speaking. After some time, she asked me to leave the room. I sat at my desk for a good 2 hours working when one of my teammates told me that I was needed back in the conference room. This time, it was just the manager of my sister team and the senior VP there. This time, the manager of the sister team did all of the talking. He said that the customer that I was emailing is pulling their account, not just from us, but from our banking partner as well. He explained how much money they made the bank through that partnership. I don't have access to the other banking systems, just the merchant services side. I was shocked to learn they had tons of loans, business accounts, and stuff I have never even heard of. It was part of a very large organization that spanned several different sectors. The person that I had emailed was the decision maker. He didn't give me an exact number, but said we had just lost millions of dollars in annual revenue. I was certain that I was going to be fired. Instead, he lectured me on the importance of diligence and other corporate mumbo jumbo. Let's be real here, guys. If you made a mistake like that, Would you expect to get fired? Let me know in the comments down below, because facing the reality of whether or not it was you that wrote the email, you did send it, and it ultimately cost the company millions of dollars in potential annual revenue, I'd be pretty sure I was gonna get launched out of there real quick. This next story is by Hunglo7777. You're fired. I was working a full-time job and a tea shop opened up a new store nearby, and I usually frequent this chain. I decided, freak it, let me apply and see what happens. I was more or less hired after an on-the-spot interview and told the expectations were high and that she expected near perfection. Pretty high ask, considering most people that staff food service places are generally high schoolers at their first job. Fast forward a couple of months and I was working a closing shift. Being a more experienced worker, considering I was working with a couple high school students, I was generally tasked with making sure closing activities were done. There is one ingredient which usually needs to be cooked for the next morning and takes about 20 minutes to prepare. Seeing that it was now 12:30 a.m. and my full-time job started at 8 a.m. the next morning, I decided, freak it, they can take 20 minutes the next morning to prepare this ingredient, and the three of us went home after cleaning. The next morning, the three of us were fired via group chat text for missing this ingredient. Considering how the manager just fired about a quarter of her workforce, I messaged her saying I was scheduled for the rest of the week and offered to at least work my last scheduled week to give her time to find someone. As well, I tried taking the blame for missing that ingredient, considering my coworkers had nothing to do with the missing ingredient. Having worked in the food service industry before, I knew how stretched out the schedule would be after having so many people fired at once. The manager responded by saying there is no need to come in and that maintaining the store was everyone's responsibility. So the following week, I didn't show up. Not only that, but since the entire closing shift was publicly fired from a group text, another two coworkers I was close with were also maliciously compliant in solidarity, not showing up for the following week, or ever for that matter. They had to call people in from different stores to help out. The icing on the cake would be the manager sending me a text about a month later saying another manager vouched for me and asked me to come back to work because they were short-staffed. I politely declined her invitation. Yeah, absolutely not going to go back to work for a person like that who fires you so quickly and over group chat text. Not only that, but you owned up to it and you still had to deal with the fact that they fired multiple people for one thing you didn't do. Now, forget that. And our final story of the day is by the DaveCorp, truck driving. I used to drive for the 5th largest trucking company in America at the time. They had all sorts of problems. Trucks that always broke down, directions that were never right. This is before commercial routes could be programmed on GPSs. I once had to ask a driver from another company for directions to one of my own company's yards. Now they've got a new CEO now, and I hope things have been fixed. I always meant to send them a letter, but I never did. I arrived to pick up a trailer, hooked up, did my mandatory inspection, and found that the trailer had a flat tire. The tire was just hanging off the rim, but otherwise appeared to have no damage. I got on my Qualcomm, a satellite communication system, and I sent in one of the message templates to dispatch. Message 157, 5:01 p.m. Friday, repairs required, flat tire. At 5:01 p.m. I had the weekend dispatcher. I sat around for quite some time waiting for a reply. When no reply came, I repeated the message. When I still got no reply, I messaged dispatch directly asking if my messages got through and when repairs were coming. Finally, I got a reply. 159 dispatch says, "We need to know the tire size." While I'm a professional driver, licensed to drive in over 150 countries, I'm embarrassed to say I never had the need to buy a tire before, and didn't know which of the many things written on the tire contained the information they needed. So in message 160 to dispatch, I relayed every single thing written on the tire to them. 161 dispatch says, "The fleet uses a universal tire size." I say, "Then why did you ask me?" Several hours passed and there were no further messages and no one came to conduct repairs. Finally, I called them on the phone. They said someone would be there shortly. After several more hours came and went, I called again and they said to stop calling because I was tying up the line and bothering them. Ooh, that pissed me off. So I disconnected my Kenworthless 500 from the trailer, parked out of the way, and started reading a book I had. Friday night passed, Saturday passed, Sunday passed. Monday morning at 9:01 a.m., when the regular 9 to 5 weekday dispatcher came back on duty, my cell phone began ringing off the hook. Why haven't you rolled? You've been idle for over 60 hours. Oh, I was ready for this. Well, sir, if you looked at message 157, you'll see that I called in for a repair. I heard the beeping of the computer as he pulled up the message menu and saw the repair request. You were supposed to send in the tire size. Well, sir, if you look at message 160 and 161, you'll see I did send in the tire size, and after I did that, I was told the entire fleet only uses one type of tire. Well, why didn't you ask them what the holdup was? Well, sir, if you look at messages 163 and 164, you'll see I did ask them what the holdup was. The guy was stammering and sputtering at this point. Why didn't you use the phone and call dispatch directly? Well, sir, if you check the call logs, you'll see that I did call dispatch twice. You did? Yes. And what did they say? In my sweetest smart butt voice, I said, they told me not to call them anymore because I was bothering them. Do you mean to tell me that you've sat idle for 60 hours because of a stinking tire? Apologetically, I said, dispatch told me to wait, sir. He was out of breath. Don't move. Someone will be there in 20 minutes. 19 minutes later, a guy showed up laughing his butt off when he pulled up because apparently the dispatcher had vented to him the entire trip there. The repair guy had a tire and a number of pieces of equipment with him in his pickup truck. He looked at the tire, informed me that the tire had no damage, but had merely lost pressure to the point where it had come loose from the rim. All that was needed to be done was for it to be put back on the rim and repressurized. Since the tire was hanging there, a huge gap between the tire and the rim, I asked him how one could possibly reinflate it. He took out an old propane tank that had a large pipe welded to it with what looked like the triangular end of a vacuum cleaner on it. He shoved the triangular piece into the gap between the rim and the tire and opened this large handle valve that was on the pipe. The entire contents of the tank shot into that gap all at once. The pressure popped the tire back into place onto the rim. He then used an air compressor to finish reinflating the tire to full pressure, had me sign something, then went on his way. I used the message template to tell dispatch I was hooked up to the trailer and beginning departure. I also got direct message to dispatch saying something like, "Thank you for getting the repairs arranged." I got a direct message back that simply said, "Uh-huh." That weekend dispatcher was immediately fired. It's definitely no surprise that that weekend dispatcher was absolutely terrible at their job. I don't know what was going on. Maybe they were just so overcrowded that they basically failed their job. They failed to complete the one thing they had to do for this trucker, and it ended up leading to 60 hours of idle time, which is not good. And a simple repair too, what a shame. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which one and why in the comment section down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving the video a like and subscribe if you haven't and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you did, whether it was just watching the video or commenting, subscribing, whatever you do. Thank you all so very much for supporting me right here on the Storytime channel. Any single thing you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I appreciate the heck out of it. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and until next time, I'll be right here on the Storytime channel.